Awesome. Welcome to this episode, folks. And here today we have with us Shivam, who's currently a product manager at Paytm, where he's responsible for improving the passbook experience on the Paytm app across platforms. He is a 2021 MBA graduate from ISB and also holds a B.Tech degree. And before doing his MBA, he was in fact a software developer for 5 years. So in today's episode, we're going to hear very interesting stories about how he transitioned from current software tech background to product management post his MBA. So if you have any questions around, hey, is MBA really necessary for product management, or how tech helps, a background in tech helps while doing current product roles, I think this episode is going to be very, very interesting. And as we usually cover, I think the segments will be a little bit about understanding Shivam's professional background, his educational background. Then we move on to his experience at cracking Paytm. So, maybe we dig deeper into the interview experience. What are the kind of questions asked? How do you tackle each of these? And towards the end, we have some fun questions for Shivam, which hope will keep you interested. But getting started, Shivam, would love to welcome you to this episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Suhas. I think the product folks is doing an amazing job in spreading awareness about product management and building a community where people are passionate about building products. So yeah, excited to be a part of this, and hopefully the experience I share during the interview will be helpful to the aspirants and other people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shivam, to just get started, we'd love to hear, you graduated back in 2013. How was the product scenario back then? And, after ISB, I'm sure like ISB in general is a place where lots of people are now interested. There's a product culture now. So how has your experience been over the years in general in product, that interest that you've had? And how did, you think of making this transition?
Perfect. Thanks, Was. So probably I'll explain the journey I undertook. So I did my bachelor's in computer science from Thaper University. And during the undergrad only, I was like a very hugely passionate about technologies. I used to do a lot of competitive coding at international level. I qualified for ACM, ICPC regionals also. So that love for technology and building products was always there. Then post Thaper, I graduated in 2015. I joined SAP, which is a B2B, famous B2B firm. So there I was again in the innovative business solutions team. So when people talk about SAP, they usually think it about ERP or the old SAP technologies, the legacy technologies. But I was in the innovative business solutions team, which worked on the latest technologies. And it was mostly custom development, what customers ask for a particular feature or a product, and we used to build it. So I used to work on the latest technologies like machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, and all. So that interest was always there. And since it was a B2B, I was never confined to a particular industry as say. So during the 5 years of my working at SAP, I worked in different sectors like fintech, the e-commerce, consumer products. And apart from this, I also ran my own startup, which is basically entrepreneurship, which was fully funded by SAP. It was in the social sector space, which had NGO and United Nations as customers. So there I was working as product lead come co-owner. If it's a small startup, you can call yourself anything. So that way it was that. So I learned a lot of product thinking and how to go about understanding the requirements. I visited a lot of NGOs in different countries and tried to understand what are the pain points they face. So basically, the startup was focused towards helping people recover quickly from disasters that struck, and the NGOs in helping people rehabilitate and carry out volunteering activities very efficiently. So that way, that was a very good project that I did apart from my day projects in SAP. So during my day projects also, I used to come up with a lot of ideas and pitched a lot of solutions, and some of them I got deals signed also worth billions. So my interest was always there. I used to do that, but it was not full time. And that is where I felt I should because whenever I used to think of a solution, I used to think from a technical point of view. to understand it from a more business point of view, to have a holistic solution around different problems. That is where I felt an MBA would be helpful. And I went to ISB, like one of the best B schools in India. And there again had excellent folks around me. We discussed a lot of good classes and sessions that we had. All this combined helped me and get that product thinking or product approach which I needed. And that is where I went to Paytm, joined as a product manager during campus placements. And yeah, have been working there since August.
Got it. No, that's an interesting journey. Shivam, towards the last bit you mentioned, yeah, of course, ISB is one of the best schools, best B schools here we have in India. But how did that entire product management thinking come? Was it like, how did you discover, hey, product management is something I want to do? You have lots of options in a B school, right?
To be honest, it started in SAP only. When I used to work on different products, I used to see what features they are building. So apart from my own startup where I used to come up with features, in my day projects as well, I used to work with product owners. So SAP is a Germany based company. The headquarters are there. I used to work with a lot of German product owners, and it always used to interest me how they are thinking about the problems. I was working in one of the biggest consumer projects which had 150 plus B2B customers in consumer products. So it was very interesting. And I always, like, while discussing products, solutions, features, that way we used to discuss. And then I saw how that interest started rising in me to think more about it, to brainstorm with the product owners about different solutions, building features. So it started from SAP. And then once I went to ISB, as I said, there was a very good culture. So ISB is known as consulting school, but to be honest, since the last 1 or 2 years, I think it can be called a product school. A lot of product opportunities are there. A lot of product aspirants are there. We have a lot of product workshops. We have different clubs that caters to product management. So that way you have speakers coming from big companies talking about product. And so yeah, the entire process started from SAP, and then it only increased from there on.
Got it. So when you had that interest in SAP, why did you feel the need to do a MBA degree? Was that like, hey, is MBA really important to get into product? Was that the thinking? And post B school, what are your thoughts on this? How much of a factor does an MBA degree play? And I mean, lots of people make transitions post a good MBA degree, and many of them have done it without MBA. So what is your, how is your realizations come across based on your experience?
Right. That's a question that is very commonly asked. So probably I can, to be very honest, I think two reasons why I did MBA. One, as I told before, was to get a holistic understanding. So whenever I used to come up with solutions, I used to always think in one dimension about technical solution, conci language and all that. But ISB would give me that business sense as well of coming up with anything. So right now in my job also, I can see that whenever I propose a feature or whenever I'm working on something different, I think from a business point of view, not just how will it be implemented, is it feasible, how long will it take to implement, but from also how much benefit it will cause, or does it make sense from a user experience point of view. So I think that thought process I can attribute to ISB or MBA. Second reason was, again, I was a software developer, and within SAP, if I had to transition to a PM role, it would have taken some years. So ISB kind of gave me that shortcut to get into product management.
Yeah, think of it as an accelerator, right? It was a career accelerator for you,
Definitely,
and good amount of opportunities for that. But now that you've done it, for someone who is probably looking to go down the same path, would you suggest this to be the best path? And very candidly, right? Do you think, hey, if someone is in a tech background, right? We're trying to bring it very close to what you have been doing, 4-5 years of, so mid-level, right? 4-5 years of tech experience, or maybe another space, but let's keep it tech so it's close to where you are. Then at that point, they're thinking, hey, we also want to do product. Lots of people want to break into product today, right? So do you think MBA is the best route? Would you suggest something else to them?
Yeah. Thank you. So, to be very honest, I don't think MBA is the best route. I would say again, it's a very personal choice. There is no right or no key. You have to do MBA, then only you can get into product management. Lot of product managers in my firm have directly transitioned from a developer to a product manager role. Even my manager also doesn't hold an MBA degree, but he's one of the smartest folks I'm working with in Paytm. So again, it's a very personal decision how to get into it. If someone thinks that he or she can directly transition from a software development to a product manager, well and good. But
Yeah.
my reasons were different. So I think it's a
Yeah.
very it's a function of your background, your experience, your aspirations, and everything, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And I think that's a good point, right? Based on where you are at today, that decision. But if you can just help me break that down further, like how do you decide or how do you help people decide that, right? How can we break that down a little further when you mentioned, hey, it's a personal choice? Completely agree based on their current background. But in
Mhm.
what cases do you think, hey, an MBA might be able to help you? In what cases do you think, okay, hey, you are probably in a better position today where you can transition? So maybe if two, three different scenarios you can share, or maybe just general background that'll help our participants, our audience today to think a little more about, hey, this is the bits that maybe we need an MBA, maybe we don't. It'll just help them think through.
Definitely agree. So okay, so one is if you come from a non-tech background, I mean, still you can transition to a product management role, but I would say an MBA degree would help. It will equip you with all the necessary skill sets needed.
Right.
So, because on a day-to-day basis, you keep talking to the developers, and if you have a tech or that if you have that tech sense or understanding, it's always easier to communicate with the developers because you
Correct.
can talk in their language if needed, right?
Yeah.
So
By tech, do you, so sorry, by tech, do you mean hardcore coding experience or in general?
overall,
Like,
like if you talk about very basic terminologies like API, database,
okay.
all these, if you know, so that always helps in talking with the developer, right? So
Agree,
that is
agree.
there. And even if you're not from a tech background, I mean, you can always succeed. There are examples of people who haven't come from any tech background and are like group product managers in different companies. So I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it always helps, is what I understand. And when you go to an MBA college, you are surrounded with folks coming from different backgrounds. You converse with them, you have different workshops. So all that helps you in developing that tech sense, is what I feel. And secondly, you talked about what are the scenarios, like if already someone is working in a tech company and if that company provides opportunities for a very smooth transition into product management from a software development profile, I think that is a very good easy route. So I've seen a lot of product folks who were working in the same team or the same vertical in Paytm as a software developer. Now they have a good product understanding since they have been working for a lot of years. They transition into a product role. So that can always be done.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So I think that makes sense now, right? If you, as in, honestly, I feel like this is not an easy question to answer. The reason I'm trying to break it down is so that people can make more well informed, right? Many people think it's only possible post an MBA, which is also not true, right? So definitely agree. I think it comes from the background, but there are certain things that they can learn on their own as well, right? MBA is exactly what you mentioned earlier. It's a career accelerator. So thanks for sharing that. Shivam, now I think it's probably time to dig into the meat of the section where we would love to cover two main things, right? Hey, now you're at ISB, for example, you see tons of opportunity, lots of good product opportunities coming. So if you can just walk us through, what is your mindset back then? Hey, these are probably, a dream set of companies I want to go to. Where all did you apply? Where all did you interview? And, which were those final offers you had? And then we'll jump into the Paytm experience.
Right. Thank you. So probably, I think you rightly said, like in ISB, there were tons of product management opportunities. I think that is true for anything in ISB. There always a plethora of things happening around, and you have to be choosy and you have to carefully choose from the buffet. So in product also, a lot of companies came, but my personal preference or my personal aspiration, which came after thinking and reading a lot and discussing with a lot of alums, is that I wanted to get into fintech. Fintech is blooming like anything right now. And second is I wanted to start my career with a B2C firm. Right. So that was one of my thought process. Why was that? I think it's again, a very personal decision. For me, it was because, again, you work on that scale in B2C, because you're working with millions, especially in a company like Swiggy, Zomato, Paytm, all these companies, you work with such a huge user base, and also you have that was one reason that you're working at such a scale. And secondly, later on, even when you want to transition into a into a B2B role, I think it's always easier to get from a B2C to B2B than from a B2B to B2C, is what my understanding is. So that was two reasons why I wanted to get into a fintech plus a B2C firm. And going with that, I think Paytm, again, being the market leaders in payments, I think provided me the perfect opportunity. And one more reason was that I also, in B2C, usually, from what I have discussed with the different product managers, the features are really delivered very frequently. Like you have a feature being shipped in 2-3 weeks, because the competition is as such. If you talk about Paytm, if you don't innovate, there are a lot of competitors who will build that, right? So you release features very quickly, so that always helps you keep you on the toes, and you're always thinking, innovating, right? So that was one of, I think, few reasons that I wanted to get into this industry and this particular B2C sector.
Nice, nice. And were there other, like for example, Paytm was like one of the best opportunities, but where else were you probably, interviewing, and what were those, you might have had a couple of shortlists, or was it like that day zero opportunity where, you got it and then you were like, okay, hey,
Yeah,
I
I
cracked
think
it.
there were other opportunities that also were there. A lot of companies I interviewed for, market leaders in different industries.
Sectors.
So they were
Yeah.
right, but yeah, eventually I chose Paytm
Just
because
Paytm.
that was my first preference.
Awesome, awesome. So now jumping right into Paytm, how did that interview opportunity look like? And I think most of our members, our community members, would love to learn, each of those rounds, right? You would have had multiple rounds. If you could share some tips and tricks on how did you prepare for each of these rounds, some resources, some questions that were asked, that would be super helpful.
Perfect. Sounds good. So one thing which I want to tell to everyone, like all the aspirants, is there is no specific prep as such you do for Paytm. Again, it's a normal product management prep, the same design, RCA, product improvement, GTM, all these questions that you practice. So I get a lot of questions from the current batch as well. Is that do we need to read about the sector? Do we need fintech knowledge? I would say it's not necessary, but it's always good to know about these terms. Say if you're appearing for a Paytm or a PhonePe interview, it's always good to know about payment gateways. What are these? How does the money transfer happen? Wallet, UPI, all these are good to know, because that helps the interviewer to know that you are interested in this domain and you have done your background research. So that is one thing. Apart from preparing for the normal product management interviews, it's always good to know about this sector, so that there's a smoother conversation that happens between you and interviewer. So,
Correct.
and if I break it into different rounds, so again it's a very it's dependent on the candidate. If the candidate is performing very well, then usually like they are selected in 2 or 3 rounds also, and for some it can go to 4 or 5 also. So for me, there were 3 rounds. One was again, first two was again the normal product management rounds, like design questions. I can elaborate a bit later.
Yeah.
And the third was HR. So
Okay.
that is how it happened for me. For some folks, there were 4 interviews also.
Yeah.
So that way. And if I talk about specifics of each round, so first round, a design question was asked. I don't remember exactly, but a typical design question was asked. And it was a very conversation based interview. That is something I felt different about Paytm from other companies. So during my resume, they were reading my resume. There was a project on blockchain. So
Oh.
so they asked me, like, Shivam, you have worked in blockchain? I said yes. Said, give us two very current use cases of blockchain. So
Right.
I told one is that it could be used to curb the fake news traveling around. They said, good. Tell us one more. So I told one more. They weren't very happy. Say, give us more recent. So right now I talked about how it can be helped in reducing counterfeiting of vaccines, because it was the COVID time. So that
Right.
is, I give a very relevant use case for the current times. So they were happy with that. So so one design and one, this was, we had a good discussion around it. How will you go about implementing it? How it will curb and everything. Then the second round was, I was asked an RCA, something
Uh-huh.
around the sales or GMV have been reduced by 10%, and we
Right.
have to analyze why. Again, the same structure of an RCA. I used to solve. And last round was typical HR interview. And why would you want to join Paytm? And tell us about a situation where you had a conflict with your manager, the typical HR questions. So after these 3 rounds, I got the offer.
Fair. So Shivam, let's go a little deeper into the preparation side of it, right? I'm sure, like I have heard about intense product preparation that ISP with your circle, right? So say these were the 3 rounds that you had. One was design, one was RC, and we'll also touch upon the HR round also a little bit because I think that is also equally important.
Sure.
First one, starting off with design, right? Maybe not the exact question, but how do you go about preparing? Are there any particular resources that helped you? Anything that you can share? I know some of them might be proprietary ISP, but anything that you can share with the rest. Then we'll jump into RCA and.
Perfect. So I can talk about both design and RCA. So the preparation is, I think we had the BTC, which is the Business Technology Club in ISB, their handbook, where interview experiences of alums have been recorded. So we went through that. Then there are tons of resources, like if you talk about PM exercises, where we pick questions. So it's always good to have a discussion among your groups. So always have a group of 3 to 4 people. Even when you're not studying in a college and you want to get into product management, try to find some like-minded folks, pick up a question, have a discussion with them, try to analyze what each one comes up with, learn from each other, look at solutions that are given on these websites and different sources like medium.com. So that is one way. And secondly, I see a lot of people right now. This is something I've given as a feedback to my current batch as well. So a lot of folks think that mugging up frameworks is the best way. I don't think, to be very honest, I don't believe in mugging up frameworks. I mean, it's good to know, good to base your answer based on the frameworks you have learned, but you shouldn't mug it up. Start with this. So I feel for product interview, going in a structured way is the best way to approach problems. But I mean, I'll give you a very simple example. They say increase the revenue of the company by X%. How can revenue be increased? It's number of customers into ARPU, average revenue per customer. So these are the 2 levers you have to track. Do you want to focus on one? Do you want to focus on 2? If you want to focus on either of them, so then base your demography, your customers, your pain points. Try to do everything or speak everything that correlates to the goal you want to achieve. If you want to increase the ARPU, then everything should go in that direction, solutions, metrics, and everything. Correct. So if you go in a structured way, you don't need to mug up frameworks. It's very easy. Similarly for RCA, just go in a structured flow. How would they start with some external factors? And when you think about any problem that the company is facing, how would a customer go? Say the orders have gone down by 10%. Think about it. My order, either the user is not able to click on the order button, the payments are not working, something like that, right? So go in a very structured way and think from a user point of view. That will always help.
Got it. No, thanks for sharing that. Any particular resources that you think helped you? Like you mentioned the ISP one. For case interviews or for RCAs, were there any specific, or was everything covered in that guidebook that you had?
I mean, that was one resource. Then there are other books also. I don't remember the name. Probably I can share it with you later.
Yeah. Whenever you share it, I'll add it to the description. But I think one that I think is really interesting here, especially for this, is that Lewis Lynn's Decode and Conquer.
That is what I was talking about, right? So Decode and Conquer is good to to understand the concepts. Then this Lewis one book is what you can read to know the questions. There are 150 questions odd.
Exactly.
Then you can refer to PM exercises. There are a lot of questions on medium.com. Then there is Exponent. A lot of videos are there which you can read. It is being solved live by different product managers working in very good companies. So again, you can learn from there, but I think the best way to master it is to go through it yourself and try to come up with solutions and everything and discuss it with your peers and maybe get vetted by senior folks in the industry.
Agree. Yeah, I think that was interesting. Sure, I'm now jumping to probably the last segment where we'd love to, now you made that transition. You had a great experience. You've taken up Paytm. How's your day-to-day looking like? Oftentimes, what happens is you think of product management to be like this glorious field, but at times, once you start working, you realize, okay, maybe it's a little different. But did that happen to you as well? Did you have some realizations post joining?
I mean, luckily till now, it hasn't been
Nothing
the
yet.
case. So you asked about a typical day. To be honest, every day is very different. There are a lot of things that we come up with. Sometimes some issue comes up, then we talk to developers how to go about fixing it. Then we are when we are brainstorming a new feature, we talk to designers and other relevant stakeholders how to go about it. Sometimes we are focusing on the metrics, so every day is very different, and on a day-to-day basis you keep talking to different stakeholders. I think one of the most important characteristics of a good PM is to how easily he or she can talk to different stakeholders. I mean, you should be easily able to talk to upper management, designers, developers, QA. So I think it is one of the most important qualities that a good product manager should have.
Agree.
So yeah, typically that is how it happens. We have daily sync up where we discuss the how if the features that we are building are on track, the bugs also we track, then talking to designers, talking to upper management, what is our roadmap, how we plan to go about it. So that is how it goes, and it's
Got
very
it.
interesting and it's never monotonous. At least till now I haven't faced a single day where it's monotonous or very repetitive to what happened before. So yeah, every
Yeah.
day is very interesting.
Fair. Do you since you probably early in your journey at Paytm as well, do you see like a career ladder? Like how does an org structure at such a one of the top startups in India? How does that look like? Does it start like APM, PM, then GPM, then you have how does that org structure at Paytm look like?
Okay. So I think the structure goes like we have PM starting off with PM. I think they're introducing some new program as well. Then we go with executive manager. Then we have senior product manager. Then head of products. Then reports to VP, and that is how the hierarchy goes.
Got
So
it.
yeah, but even though there is hierarchy, I wouldn't say. I would say it's a very flat hierarchy. To be very honest, like
Okay.
I'm a lot of times I'm in calls with direct reportees to the CEO of Paytm. So, I mean, it's a very flat hierarchy. You can talk to anyone, you can discuss any. So,
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
you
No,
talk
that
to.
sounds exciting. Shivam, thanks so much for joining us today. Just one question before you go out, maybe two. Lots of people who are probably listening to this are in a similar boat, like we were discussing in between, right? Where they come from, maybe an engineering background, want to move in, and maybe have also done an MBA or are thinking about an MBA. Post all the Twitter threads that we've come across, all the Gyannan books. Are there one or two practical tips that you'd love to share with them? Anything that you think you would have loved to know while you were doing this? Anything that you think might be interesting?
Yeah, I think again, practical tips is again, I think it will be very it will be same to what I said before. Don't mug up the frameworks. It's good to
Yes.
have develop a basic understanding after reading books and medium articles, but eventually develop your own thought process and go on solving questions. Whenever you see like something like say if a Zomato is down or if UPI is down, how would we go about it? How about analyzing the problem? So take
Yeah.
any real life situation like you recently Facebook was down, Instagram was down. How would you approach if you were the product manager for that? So yeah,
Yeah.
pick up everyday real life problems and try to analyze it, and slowly you will develop that intuition and understanding.
Fair, fair. And if people were to reach out to you, what would be the best medium? Are you most active on LinkedIn, for example? We'll just
Yeah,
add
yeah,
like a link. Yeah.
yeah.
That
LinkedIn,
would be.
I'm pretty active, so anyone can send me a request, and if they want to get referred, I can help.
Awesome,
We're
awesome.
always
And
looking
folks,
for a good.
Shivam's also part of, yeah, exactly. Shivam's also part of our community. So in case you are on our Slack, also you can reach out to him. But Shivam, thanks so much for your time today. I think it was a very interesting discussion on Paytm. I'm sure some of them might message you post this, people who want to transition and, probably grab a role at Paytm. I know there are lots of openings as well. So they might reach out to you. So thanks so much for your time today. And I think I wish you all the best. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting phase. So all the best to you as well. And thanks so much for joining us once again.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Suhas. And Shushmita, as I said before, TPF is doing an amazing work in spreading the awareness and building a community where we can discuss and share ideas. So happy to have shared my experience. And if somebody wants to connect further with me one-on-one, they feel free to do it over LinkedIn. Thanks a lot.